Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Raising Vibration Radio. I'm your host, Reverend Raven, and today with me I have two magnificent authors that have co-written a book together. Um, and I want to introduce them. It's Hapi and Johndennis, and I want you guys to go ahead and say hello to everybody that's listening in.
Hello.
Good evening.
Awesome. So, you guys have co-written a book together. Could you tell us a little bit about your book, the name of it, and how you guys got the idea?
Here is a copy. Here's the front cover of it. Okay. It's called the Chintamani Crystal Matrix, Quantum Intention and the Wish Fulfilling Gem. It's published by Destiny Books and Inner Traditions. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, the Inner Traditions site, and just about everywhere that you can get books. And it is about the wish-fulfilling gem. And it's and the Chintamani, why it's called the wish-fulfilling gem, that's what the Chintamani means. And in fact, Johndennis, why don't you explain like its Sanskrit origins?
Right. Well, right. So it is from Sanskrit, and the first part of it, Chinta, means intention. And so the latter part is, mani just, literally means gem or jewel. So it's translated most often as wish fulfilling gem, and yet you could translate it as the mind gem, as or the intention gem. You could translate it that way, and it goes back. We were trying to trace it in history, so there's like an external Chintamani, and it's part of a myth that comes from Hinduism, from the churning of the milk ocean time. And so there's the gods and the anti-gods are cooperating under the tutelage of the Trinity. The gods would be called the shining ones, but the gods are the creator and the sustainer and the destroyer, all in one, the Trinity. So what happens in this whole churning in the milk ocean is that there's 14 gems, 14 things that come out of it, and one of the gems, or in this case, it means precious. But one of the things that comes out of it is the very first Chintamani, and what we get from it is this sort of paradox. So it's a powerful gem. And what it does is it grants you any wish. And the catch-22 about it is if you use it for your own desires, but you don't use it to help other people, then it creates chaos in the world. But if you use it to benefit all beings, then it can work out. But so the entire history of like working with this gem is that people, even whether it's the gods, human beings, whoever gets in contact with it, they get a moral crisis, and the moral crisis is, am I going to use this to benefit people or not? It's sort of like winning the lottery. People say, oh, if I win the lottery, I'll take care of everybody.
Right.
And then 4 years later, they're completely broke and they haven't really helped anybody.
So how did you guys come together to write this book together? I mean, have you known each other for a very long time? Were you both studying and accidentally met together? Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, I actually to some degree, I think like the universe kind of magnetized us together, because I think Johndennis is a Tibetan Lama, and he's been studying Buddhism his entire life. And I have been, I have more of a Christian spiritual background, and I've been studying the Kabbalah, but I've been like collecting minerals, and I've been a gem dealer forever. I mean, I started collecting minerals when I was a child, and so I've always kind of an obsession with crystals. But it was Johndennis, when we met a few years ago, he was the one who kind of introduced me to this whole concept of the Chintamani, which deep down, I think inside of me, I believed as an archetype. I just didn't know that there was something called the wish fulfilling gem. So he helped me discover that. And then once we had connected on that level, then it's like we kind of spontaneously came up with an idea. We should write a book about this because no one has ever written a book about the Chintamani in a comprehensive way. And we kind of feel like it's hiding in plain sight, like it's there. It's like it's like this essence within crystals, a spiritual essence, and that there's this like almost like this magical gemstone that might exist on the material plane, but even more importantly, exist on the spiritual plane. And so we wrote this book to try to introduce this concept to others and maybe even raise the awareness and one's practice with crystals. Like how do we take tangible matter and meditate with it and raise ourselves along with the archetype with energy of this crystal to a higher level, to higher vibration.
Wow. So the universe just kind of sucked you two together, magnetized yourself, and you connected and you got together and written this book. Johndennis, being a Buddhist, is that something they talk about in that, you call that a religion? Because or is that your...
I don't know. Most people just call it a practice because it's really what it is. It's a, you could say it's a belief system, but the most important thing is that you do practice. So you have to verify everything that anybody tells you is true. You have to verify it yourself. So in that way, it's much more practical.
So
Yeah.
is the stone that you guys have written a book about, is that something that you studied in Buddhism? Because I've never heard of that stone until I met you guys.
Well, the weird thing is a lot of people haven't. And then as we were discussing it and we did some lectures about it, and then the people in the audience would be scratching their heads like, what are you talking about? And it's almost like it's a secret about one of the things that's out in the open everywhere, but people just don't recognize it. I mean, that was sort of the weird thing about it. So it's in Buddhism and it's in Hinduism. So it comes, especially, in those two sort of like cousin traditions, in the mythology and in the actual spiritual teachings. And so in this case, within Buddhism, it's usually a being who has the Chintamani has to be sort of a bodhisattva, a being who dedicates his or her entire life to benefiting other sentient beings. So that's sort of service to other people is the number one thing that a bodhisattva does. And so the wish fulfilling gem is almost like an emblem that you are a bodhisattva on one hand, but it's also, maybe it's a technology that you've got that you can use to help that you can help to benefit other people. So the thing that I didn't know, so it's like, having studied this from, over 40 years, was that once I started looking at pictures, so instead of like looking at what was written, in this book, we look at a lot of, images. And so one of the sets of images we looked at was of bodhisattvas. And almost in all the bodhisattvas, there's a Chintamani in the picture, but it isn't like talked about. I mean, which is the really kind of unusual thing, I guess you'd say, about it. And I would ask questions of different lamas and teachers about it, and they would just kind of look at me, tilt their head, and say, "What are you interested in for?" It's like, why are you so interested? And then I wouldn't get like a straight answer at all. It was just sort of like around the edges, which of course just made, both of us more steadfast in looking things up. Right? Like, oh, there must be a bigger secret here that we're stumbling upon. So I would say that it really is everywhere, but it isn't talked about as much as it's in all of the pictures that you see about Buddhas and bodhisattvas, and it just shows up everywhere.
That is very interesting. Um, Getting back to your spirituality or your practice, when was your aha moment that you decided this is going to be my practice, this is going to be my life, this is how I'm going to walk my path?
Well, I think for me, I had a couple of them. I was in college and I took a class in, it was like Eastern philosophies and religions. And then through that whole semester, I was like, wow, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, why didn't they tell me this before? So like every day that I was reading or, that I was attending a lecture, I'd be like, wow, why didn't I know this before? But this makes a lot of sense. So that was sort of the intellectual side of it. And then I think the other side was when I was a conscientious objector in the Vietnam War, and was doing alternate civilian service. And one of the things that kind of came up as I was introspecting was, well, I've got to do something about my own peacefulness or my own anger. I've got to do something to quell that or to become a more tranquil person. And so, as things opened up, that's when I discovered meditation. And then it was like from that moment, it was like, wow, the minute I started doing meditative practice, it was like, this is the key. Whatever else you say, it's you sitting on the pillow, or you doing deep breathing, or there's, literally, as hundreds and hundreds of meditative techniques that you can do. And then that's what really sort of opened up the world for me. It was like, I have the key. It didn't happen all at once, but it's like, I have the key now.
Happy, what about you?
Well, I mean, in terms of spiritual practice, I've always believed in a higher God, higher source. I mean, I can't remember when I didn't. So for me, it's always been like there's been little steps on the pathway showing me like that there is higher guidance that I am following, and just a reminder of that. But there is a moment in my life when I felt like I was kind of called to like work with crystals in a more meaningful spiritual way. And there's this resort that offers spiritual sessions like astrology and things like that Johndennis and I were both working at. And I remember years ago telling my supervisor at this resort, like I said, why don't you offer crystal energy sessions? Because this is really popular in Arizona, since Arizona has the world's largest gem and mineral show. It's actually in Tucson. And so I was encouraging them to kind of hire like a crystal practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
And so my supervisor, who knew I had like this massive collection of crystals, said, well, why don't you do it? You're the one with all the crystals. And I thought, well, I'm not that kind of an energy expert. For some reason I was doubting my own, I don't know, my own intuition about crystals. And so right after that, I went on this trip. I was driving to Colorado, but I stopped at the Taos Pueblo in northern New Mexico. And I was in the Taos Pueblo, and there were the Native Americans who live in there. And I remember going into one of their homes where they were selling like some Native American items, but some of them, they had like these kind of like these tumbled rocks on the table. And I was asking this Native American Pueblo woman, it's like, how much are your crystals? And she didn't really answer me. I had to ask her a couple of times and she never answered me. And then I was asking her about these other stacked stones that she had in the Pueblo. And then she said, you're the second person to ask me about those stones. Do you want to know about the first person? And I thought, that's mysterious. I thought, what's going on here? And then she started telling me about this rock talker from the Sioux tribe that had come in there and was actually talking to the rocks, and then telling the Pueblo woman, she said, your rocks are very happy and they want you to know that they love being here and they love you and that they're helping you in life, And so the Pueblo woman thought the Sioux woman was crazy. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. She's telling me this story, and she said, You're behaving with the rocks the same way the Sioux woman did. And she said, You're a rock talker too. Because she said that the Sioux woman introduced herself and said she was a rock talker. And she said, You've been talking to the rocks too. And I just kind of looked at her and I was like, oh, that was interesting. I never found out she actually had any rocks for sale. It's just like everything turned off. And I just walked out. And also I realized I was kind of in this vortex field. Like the Taos Pueblo was really powerful place. It's like the only living Pueblo that's still like a living Pueblo that's still in existence, that's like an operating Pueblo. And after that, then all these other synchronistic experiences happened. It's like the universe was telling me, you need to go home and start offering lectures, selling crystals, doing services. And I started doing that. And that was before I met Johndennis. I started doing all that. But then once Johndennis was hired at the same place, it's like it just started unfolding. And then it eventually led to this book. But I would say that was like a moment where I think the universe was trying to get my attention, saying, don't turn this down. Like this is the doorway we want you to go through.
Oh man, that is really, I just got chills listening to that, because I never even heard of the terminology rock talker. I'm a firm believer in crystals, and I know that they help us, and stones help us and everything like that, but never heard the terminology rock talker in my entire life.
Well, the Pueblo woman said that rock talkers are rare, even among the Native Americans. They're not common.
And you happen to walk in right after the first one, and you that's incredible, all in one day, and then you're told to do this, and you listened and you followed. That's amazing.
Well, if a Native American and the Taos Pueblo is telling you you're a rock talker, you want to listen.
I gotcha. So one of my listeners, Lisa, she says this is really fascinating, and this was back when you were talking about the stone, the wishing stone here. She says, as an energy healer, can I integrate that into my practice?
I would highly encourage that. So I'll share with you another recent story or a recent interchange I had with a crystal. So like I just mentioned, we have the world's largest gem and mineral show here. So I go to that every year, and there are thousands of crystals. It's really very overwhelming. And so this most recent one, which is in February, I was walking by this booth. Is probably I think they were from Afghanistan, and they had this big pile of rough aquamarine. So I go over there, I pick one up, and I'm attracted to the crystal, and I try to negotiate with the owner, and he's not coming down to the price, and I'm being stubborn. So anyway, I put it down and I start to walk away, and the crystal is pulling me back. Okay. And so then I go back and I just go ahead and pay what he wants. And I bought something else too. And actually we had this incredible spiritual interchange. Once I gave him money, then all of a sudden he kind of opened up to me, and he told me a bunch of interesting things. And, so that was good. But later on, when I was meditating with the crystal, okay. And in fact, I was doing a meditation with Johndennis. We were doing this, we were doing mantras, and I held this aquamarine in my hand, and I noticed that the aquamarine had been sort of inert, and it was the energy was waking up as we were doing the practice. And all of a sudden I felt this surge of energy, like the aquamarine had found its spiritual purpose or path in life. Up until that point in time, it was just a rock. And now all of a sudden it was being woken up to a higher purpose. And so then I also realized, I shouldn't sell this one, because this one had just woke up. But it didn't wake up until we were doing mantra and meditation and focused intention with it. So I think an answer to one of your viewers is like, think of your crystals that way, that they're on a journey too, a journey of awakening. And that you working with them and say doing mantras and meditation and holding them, that they're on a journey with you to spiritual awakening. So when you're doing that, like, you can wake up the Chintamani essence inside the crystal along with yourself.
So the crystal, you could actually be the crystal itself, right? Within your spirit, or you don't necessarily need a physical stone. You could be the stone.
Yes, I think you can be the stone too. In other words, like, you can have the Chintamani within you. And in fact, like Johndennis, you kind of think it's kind of like the pineal gland.
Well, I think that's the connection through which you connect to them.
And when you're connecting with this, again, you said earlier, we have to be really careful what we wish for, correct? Like, we don't want to be selfish with it. We want to be for the good of whole humanity, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. But even when you look at this word chinta in first part in Sanskrit, it means like something that you've thought about or reflected on. So it's not like, I want some ice cream right now. It's not like a reflex kind of thing. But it's like something that you've pondered, and you've thought, how could I really take care of people, or how can I really improve things? So you've put some thought and consideration into it. And so consideration is sort of like one of the translation words that come up with it. But it is something that you more deeply thought or think about. So it's if it's a power crystal, then people are just using it reflexively to try and get power. But if you're using it in the sort of the spirit that it comes out in sort of the different religious and mystical mythologies, it's saying you use this to benefit other people, and you use it to benefit them in the way that you've already got a calling for. So if you are a healer, you're gonna find stones as support, or minerals or crystals as support that will help you do the healing. If you're doing channeling, you'll find some crystal also that'll help you follow that path. So there's like a mutual attraction that happens between you and a particular stone. And even though you don't need, strictly speaking, to have a crystal, it's still sometimes having some kind of support to like start you somewhere creates an anchor. And it makes it kind of simpler from there, because the crystals themselves have electromagnetic energy. Then you can just, without waking them up as a consciousness, you can wake them up as an energy. So rubbing them, in other words, heating them up, creates a pyroelectric charge, and by squeezing them or pressing them, it creates a piezoelectric charge. But it creates an electromagnetic charge. So it's like you're waking the stone up, and so that you're literally like switching it on.
So I want to take just a second here and share my one of my computer screens here so that I can show them the cover of your book here real quick. So I'm adding it now, and let's see here. So that is their book, and it's on Amazon, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I will put a link in here for you guys to go to Amazon, and I just wanted you to see how amazing the cover. Did you guys create this cover together yourselves?
Well, there was a cover. No, actually, Inner Traditions had a cover artist. They came up with something, and then we got together with my daughter, who's really good with graphic artists, and we gave them some new suggestions, and then they came back with something else, and then we modified it some more. I mean, it actually it was like a massive group effort. So, but I mean, we're very happy with the way it turned out. It's a beautiful cover. The book itself is beautiful. They took all of our illustrations. It's full color. We have like over 100 illustrations in the book.
Oh man, I can't wait to get. I'm gonna have to order this tonight and get it. Again, I was telling them earlier. All of you that know me, I have really put myself out there lately, and just I can't stop myself from. I need to learn to say the word no. That's one of the things I need to do is learn to say no. But this is just like drawing me in, and I really want to read this, ingest it, feel it, because the attraction is just there. You know what I mean? It's just drawing me in, and I can't wait to look at the pictures, but no, to read it, because your research, I love the time you put in. How much research did you guys have to do for this book?
Oh, it took us a few years to write.
It was 6-year effort.
Yeah, 6 years. I can imagine.
And the book kind of like took on a life of its own. So we had an outline, and then it's like it's almost like cells splitting off, and new chapters started evolving from it. And then like I remember one chapter just kind of split off on its own, and I even told Johndennis, I said, this book is like splitting atoms, and it's just it really should take on a life of its own. So
yeah, it did. And then the other thing that happened is different opportunities would come up. So we were in the middle of writing it, and maybe halfway through, and we got word that one of the crystal skulls, the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull, was going to be in Phoenix. So we live in Tucson, so it's a couple-hour drive away. So suddenly we thought, well, it's come this far. It's like it's only a couple-hour drive here, because in the West, 2 hours is nothing to drive somewhere.
It's out here.
Yeah, it's big, right? If you want to go somewhere, you're going to have to go 2 hours anyway. So we each went and had an interaction with it, and we were like a lot of people, you're sort of skeptical about it, because it's like, even though we've read books about it and listened to a lot of videos and watch different presentations about it, but then when we had like each of our experiences, and then we compared them with the people that went with us, and everybody was moved, and then suddenly we realized we have to start to incorporate the crystal skulls. It's part of the it's you could call it like a type or a species of Chintamani.
So going back to the crystals, or where people go, and you were talking about the magnetism and selecting the right one, how would you guys describe to somebody what to feel? How do you know which stone is right for you? I know you have the magnetic, but does it like heat up in your hand? What are you looking for when you're...
Well, I do entire sessions helping people. I do crystal energy sessions where I lay out like say 80, 90 crystals on the table. And I also like have them select from a rows of quartz crystal points. And then I kind of guide them through the process of selecting crystals. And so sometimes when I have like say quartz crystal points in a row, and I'm asking someone to pick one to select for meditation, because I teach people how to clear them and how to embed intention in them. I always tell people to pick more with the feeling in their hand rather than their sight. Like, in other words, don't just pick the pretty crystal, okay? The one that your eye is attracted to. Also feel it with your hands and feel the energy and feel how it feels in your hand, and try to pick more from that. And then when I have people, picking from an array of crystals, like say 90 crystals on the table, I'll kind of guide them to this meditation of like, well, kind of clear yourself first, get centered, and then think of something that you might need help with, like kind of close your eyes and think about something that you need help with in your life, and open your eyes and then pick a crystal. Okay. Is that way? I'm trying to get away from people just picking the pretty ones, like going a little bit deeper and picking ones that you actually energetically need. And then I actually do have people close their eyes and then just use their hands and help guide them over the crystals and have them pick one energetically. Okay. And so I end up helping them build like a medicine wheel. Okay. Like they pick 4 to 5 crystals, and then in different sectors of the medicine wheel. And then all of a sudden they have a grid of crystals to work with. Okay. But I mean, you don't need to have a practitioner to do this. It's like you go into a crystal show or a crystal shop, you can close your eyes and just feel the energy. Some people feel little tingles. Some people feel like a magnetism or an inner knowing. And, you kind of want to rely more on that than just picking ones that look pretty. Okay. Because, once you're engaging the body and the electromagnetism of your body, then it's like you're being pulled towards certain minerals. And I have seen this a lot in my crystal energy sessions. Once we disengage just the vision, okay, and kind of go towards what do you magnetize to, frequently I'll find that people end up picking crystals where all of them have iron in them, or they all have calcium in them. And also I realize, are you craving iron or calcium? And then I cannot tell you how many times people have ended up saying, I have the inability to absorb iron, or I'm calcium deficient, or whatever the mineral is. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so some of this is very, very practical. Sometimes your body is just craving or wanting to move towards the certain actual minerals that are inside that crystal. And so I think sometimes we think like, crystal energy is just new age stuff, but these are minerals. Sometimes we ingest these things, we're eating them in our food. So I actually think of, like, say, crystal energy as a form of food or vitamins for the auric field. And that's actually why we wear them too, is because we're at a bioelectrical level, absorbing the minerals through our auric field.
When I was a child, my father and grandfather were rock hounds. So we went out to Quartzsite, Arizona, for the big gym show out there. I don't even know if they have that out there anymore.
It's very popular.
Is it? Okay.
More popular than ever.
Yeah, exactly. It is.
But my grandfather, who did not, he would say, these crazy people, these hippies, that's what he called them back in the 70s. He goes, these hippies would come over here and put that rock in their hand, and they'd say, the energy's so good. And he would get a kick out of it because he didn't believe in that stuff. But I did, even as a child. I was in middle school when we went out there for the first time. And I remember going, and I was so fascinated watching people back then resonate to a certain stone.
Those hippies are still there.
Yeah.
They have a few grayer hairs now.
But they were spiritualists, but he called them a hippie because he didn't understand. It's kind of funny, to go back and reflect. I wasn't brought up religious at all. My parents, my dad was Catholic, my mother was Methodist, and we didn't go to church. So I would go and get baptized at a church every Sunday when I was about 12 years old, because I knew there was much more. And then I'd get mad going to a church. Did you guys ever find that for yourself when going to a traditional type church?
Well, because I kind of was raised in a rather fundamental Christian religion. My parents were actually pretty open-minded, but we still were dealing with this fundamental Christian religion that's like probably thought that crystal energy was sort of like witchcraft or satanic a little bit or something. But then I spent a lot of time arguing with people, like either within the church or within the religion, and even today telling Christians, crystal energy is actually deeply Christian. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you go into the Old Testament, the high priest wore a breastplate with 12 gemstones that he had to wear in order to go and administer in front of the Ark of the Covenant. Okay. And then according to, Hebrew tradition, that God would actually communicate with the high priest through those 12 gemstones. Okay. So that is like very ancient crystal energy, deeply embedded in the Old Testament. Plus, there are literally hundreds of references to gemstones being used in a metaphorical sense throughout the Bible, both Old Testament and New Testament. They refer to God's throne as being this huge, glowing, vibrant emerald. Okay. And then in the New Testament, they talk about how the New Jerusalem has like these layers of gemstones and, in the walls and in the gates. And, if these crystals had no energy, why is God using them to build in the New Jerusalem? Why does God have them in his throne? Why are there gemstones in the crowns of the righteous? To me, this is like just the biblical or Christian version of the Chintamani.
Yeah, I recall that they even talk about the foundations of heaven, like the 12th foundation of heaven is amethyst.
Yeah. Well, the foundations of heaven are built on layers of 12 different crystals that are sort of loosely connected to the gemstones in the high priest breastplate.
Interesting. It is really interesting. What about Buddhism? Is the practice based on gemstones too as well? Or I know you have mantras. I'm very familiar with that.
Well, there's actually this one unusual practice, and what you do is you get chips of semi-precious gems, and then you have like this, what they call it is a mandala plate. Usually, I mean, it could be silver, it could be copper, it could be plain. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's like if you could also use grains, but if you use semi-precious stones, then they're energetic. And what you do is you grab a pile and you're putting piles around this, and so what you're doing is you're repeating a prayer. But what's happening also is that you are, by putting these gemstones, you're imagining that throughout your entire set of lifetimes that you've been doing good deeds and good work, and you've been generous in giving like gemstones without thought of yourself. You're non-hoarding. You're trying to benefit other people, and you do this prayer, really 100,000 times. And what you're trying to get is, and of course it doesn't happen in one day, but it's like what you're trying to get is the feeling that, over all my lifetime, I really have contributed to this planet. I really have completed. And part of it has the effect of like people then valuing themselves because they're dealing with this gem. So this is like a very sort of important practice that's considered to be in the introductory practices in Tibetan Buddhism. And that's just one of them. Then there's all the visualizations and the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. They're all considered to be gems. So it's like the theme just keeps coming up over and over and over again.
Well, the three principles of Buddhism are actually known as the triple gem, right?
Right.
Well, and I would also add on too is like Johndennis and I were very amazed when we started looking at like say the artwork and the tankas in Buddhism. They have piles of gems, Chintamani's, at the base of the Buddha, and Tara and stuff. And then, within their auric fields, they have like all these Chintamani's in their auras too. And then sometimes they're holding the Chintamani in their in mudras and prayer poses. So, that it's these powerful gemstones are very frequently found in the artwork.
Yeah, I have noticed that, and I was brought up around gemstones. I wear them. I have them. I know that they're like right now. I'm wearing a hematite bracelet right now that helps shoo away negativity, and or help with pain. It has multiple purposes, just like everything stone. But it's amazing how they have been a part of our culture, our heritage, our lives, and we don't even realize it. For the person that's not awakened yet, they have them too as well, hanging around. We symbolize big events with stones and jewelry, right?
That's right. We do.
So
And,
it's
and
real.
also think about like the crown jewels of all the of royal families and kings and queens. I mean, the way they are crowned with these crowns of gold and set with the biggest gemstones. I mean, think about the crown jewels in the Tower of London. I mean, it's an incredibly impressive array of some of the most incredible gemstones on the planet. And for some of them, they have like symbolic powers, like one of the world's largest diamonds is in the scepter, and it's considered the scepter of spiritual temporal power. Okay, so they assign symbolic meanings behind these items too. And then there's certain diamonds, certain large diamonds that can only go in the crowns of the female royal members. And so it's like there is this energy behind the stones, and they are using them symbolically and placing them in certain pieces.
You guys mentioned, hold on a second. Lisa says, I meditate with crystals every day. I also set up different grids. They have been amazingly helpful. Your work is beautiful and appreciating. So she wants to tell you she appreciates you guys coming on here and sharing this information with her tonight. You guys said that you guys work at a resort there where you live?
Oh yeah, so it's Canyon Ranch Resort here in
Uh-huh.
Tucson. And I think they also have one in Massachusetts, and they have part of one in Las Vegas. Yeah, but I've worked there for like 12 years, and Johndennis worked there for a few years.
Mm-hmm. About 4.
And so is it like a spiritual retreat there or just a resort?
It's a health and healing retreat. It's predominantly like used for health and healing, but they do have a metaphysical department and a spirituality department, and so I see people there to do crystal energy. I do astrogemology there. I give lectures. I do crystal energy workshops. And I also do I also lead meditations there using crystals as well.
What do you do there, Johndennis?
I used to do Western astrology, Chinese astrology, and feng shui.
Interesting, but you don't do it anymore. You retired out of there?
I did retire out of there, and
But he's not retired.
I'm not retired. I'm writing other things. I mean, I have time to do more writing now.
I got you. Are you guys working on another book right now together, or are you just doing one yourself, Johndennis?
Both, actually. I'm doing one myself, and then we're doing one together.
I got you. So what's your next one together? What's that about?
Well, I don't know that we want to disclose that yet.
Okay.
The main reason why is because we have to send the idea to the publisher first. And
I got you.
And so until we do that, we'll just. But it is going to be about crystals. Okay,
It's going to be about crystals.
It is going to be about crystals. And we also we are planning on writing the sequel to the Chintamani Crystal Matrix. Okay, there's going to be a sequel too, and that one is we have to start writing as well. We have to do more research on it though.
Right. I think you guys should do a documentary on it myself.
Oh, okay. No, actually, I think a documentary on the Chintamani, it would be an amazing, because it's so visual. Crystals are super visual. You can talk about them, but you want to see them. you know.
Right.
And
Right.
you want to see their energy. I mean, crystals are a very, very visual process. And so I think a documentary on it would be amazing.
I know. I mean, if you guys want to do one, I'm totally with you on that one. I think it's great. I think you should totally do a documentary on it. We'll get it out there because it's so fascinating when you have the visualization of the stones and you talk about it and what each one does, and for people to actually see exactly. I mean, I can tell you, oh, I got a hematite, but how many people know that hematite is a black stone, and until you actually see it and stuff like that. And I love uh your picture behind you that's in the. Yeah, that's very interesting. Where did you get that?
Well, here, and I'll even move the camera so you can see the whole thing.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
that
beautiful.
actually an interesting backstory. We actually did get that at the gem show,
Mhm.
and Johndennis actually helped me select it. But it comes from it comes from a monastery in Nepal, and it's an original. So the priests or the lamas, in Nepal, hand painted that using ground up gemstone pigments. Okay.
Wow.
So like the blue that you see in there is actually lapis that has been ground down and turned into a pigment. And then
Wow.
the red is like a coral. It's like a ground up coral. So there's actual gemstones in that painting.
And the other thing is, so you can see it, it has this incredible, visual look to it. But if you take your hand up and you put it, and you just feel this energy that's radiating from, from the mandala that's there. And you're like, why? What am I feeling? And, some people feel it. Then it's like, once you tell them, oh, well, it's ground up gems that they use to, as the pigment, all different kinds of gems.
Well, I could definitely feel it. I mean, it's made me smile the whole entire time. I mean, it's happy.
Oh yeah, well, that particular mandala is called the Kala Chakra, and we actually devote at least part of a chapter in our book to the Kala Chakra because it does have this connection to Shambhala and the Chintamani. Do you want to talk more about that?
Sure. So the Chintamani, like one of its functions, I guess you could call it, is that you can use it as a guide stone, and you use it as a guide stone to find this land or this dimension. Is probably a better description of it, of Shambhala. And Shambhala, when you translate it from Sanskrit, means sort of like a peaceful place. And so that's another idea that you just find in every culture. It's just in every culture about there is some place that guides the development of human beings. And we sort of go into, different, there's a theosophical, there's a Buddhist, there's a Hindu version of it. There's even a Russian Orthodox version of it, Byelovodia. And so there's, it's another one of those things. The minute you start to go looking for it, it's like you realize it's just everywhere, but it has different names, that it's been named in different languages. And so this wish fulfilling gem then is like something that you can use as a guide stone. So one of the things that we did to sort of, start the book out was to pick a modern day story of a family that went ahead and used, acquired a Chintamani and did a quest. So I'm going to let Hapi talk about that one.
Yeah, because I wrote that chapter.
Right.
So anyway, so it was a Russian family named the Ruriks, and Nicholas Rurik was a sort of like a spiritual master. He and his wife Helena basically introduced Buddhism in St. Petersburg, Russia, and this was in the like say 1918, 1919. And so this was like, right after World War One. And they ended up connecting with a master, in Europe. And he was an artist too. So he was a painter, he was a poet, and he was getting some fame in Europe. So he was doing art shows. Well, they ended up connecting with an ascended spiritual master who then sent them like some kind of a Chintamani stone, which is a little bit mysterious. And we talk about it in the book, because we're not completely sure what kind of a stone it was. It could have been a moldavite, a meteorite, but there was some guide stone, some Chintamani guide stone was actually sent to them. And then they started a quest they started it in like basically probably in Darjeeling. They started this quest going through Asia and opening up Asia to Western consciousness. And a lot of people don't even know about this family. The Roriks really did open up the East to Western consciousness in modern times. So they went on this 3-year expedition going through Tibet and Mongolia, and they were basically seeking Shambhala, using this Chintamani guide stone. It is an absolutely fascinating story, sort of like an adventure story, almost like an Indiana Jones story before there was Indiana Jones, and then there's even intrigue surrounding them, because some people think that they were spies working for Russia, and other people thought they were spies working for the United States government, and so some have even said he was a double agent. And then because different entities were helping to fund this mission, but it was a very, very intriguing family. And in kind of going through their diaries, because I did a lot of reading of their diaries and stuff, I am not completely sure what it is that they did discover, because I think they hid it. I think they did discover something about Shambhala, this hidden land of Shambhala, and I think they actually deliberately removed it from their diaries, because they didn't want to make it known to, say, to like, say, world leaders or governments who were not enlightened.
Mm-hmm. That would make sense. I don't, they didn't want the innocence to be spoiled or taken away from somebody that, isn't of like mind. I totally get that. I wouldn't have printed it either myself if I had discovered it, not at all, because there's some people that like malice in this world, unfortunately.
And so in our book, we have a chapter we actually, several of his paintings, because he was painting images while he was on this expedition. And it's like his paintings are more revealing than his diaries. And so we explore that in the book, of like looking at the images that he painted, of like, it's almost like there's these clues showing that they did find Shambhala, or that they found like a sacred crystal a sacred cave of crystals where they were meditating with masters. And you see these in the paintings, but you don't see this being recorded in his diary.
Interesting. Did you guys get to, when you were researching for your book and everything like that, did you take off and go over to Asia and kind of walk the path they did from the diary? Did you get an opportunity to do that?
Well, we sort of finished the book during lockdown. So we actually did have that idea of doing that, but then all of a sudden 2020 happened, So, but what was great is that, that's when that was the year we actually finished the book. And then the publisher got it in 2021, did the editing, and then it got printed, and it came out this January. So, I mean, in many ways, I was kind of thankful for lockdown, because it allowed me to actually write some chapters,
Yeah.
The book would have gotten done otherwise.
The lockdown was actually, I found it to be quite the blessing, during that whole time, it slowed everything down. You got to reflect on some stuff, got to say goodbye to some people on the planet that were ready to go home, so.
Well, it was funny because we had turned like a couple of chapters and the table of contents to this publisher right before the pandemic started. And then we thought, well, we don't know what happened to that. And then all of a sudden, April 2020, the publisher came back to us and said, we want to publish this. When can you get it done?
Yeah, how soon?
Oh, wow.
And then all of a sudden, we spent the rest of 2020 scrambling to get it done, So that's what we did. That's all I remember about 2020, trying to write a book.
And you guys got it published from a publisher a lot, and this is your first book together. A lot of people have to self-publish it and do it their own self. So kudos to you guys for that. That's amazing.
We sent the first publisher we sent it to, it got picked up. So we didn't even have to deal with rejection letters.
Yeah, but the other part of it, it's a publisher. When we looked at, each of our libraries, we had between us over 200 of their books, and one of the questions they say is like, could you see yourself being an author? And it was like, yes, of course, because we've got so many of your books between us.
I love it. Because I have several friends that have written books here, in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I live, and they had, they had to self-publish it and put it out there themselves. So it's nice to know and have somebody on there that actually got published by a company, because that is a big deal. But yeah, the rejection letters, that's going to break your heart to get one of those in the mail. I would have been like, oh no, they don't think I'm good. It's amazing. So what's the future look for you guys? What besides another book coming out, and then you're going to write your own books, but what else are you guys going to be doing out there?
Well, so we have like probably 5 to 6 books that we have ideas for. So that'll take up a bunch of time. Plus we just got invited to host a radio show that's going to start May 9th. So
nice.
We have our own radio show starting in a few days, and that's going to be called Crystal Quest.
Nice. Where is that going to air on?
The name of the company, it's Positive
healthylife.net.
Yes, Positive Talk Radio.
I love it.
We're going to be on once a month on Mondays, on the second Monday of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's about 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But it's recorded and they can go back and listen to it whenever they want. Just like this. Like exactly. I got this on iTunes and Spreaker and Anchor FM, plus YouTube and Facebook. So it gets out there all over the place. So that's great.
Yes, so, that hurtled in really recently, like a week ago. And so we're scrambling, putting shows together, and that kind of was unexpected, but it was I was on the Linda McKenzie show, and so then after the interview, she called up and she said, do you and Johndennis want to host a show? She said, we like this idea of positive working with crystals and spiritual energy and stuff. So we're actually sort of excited about this because it allows us the opportunity to go a lot deeper into topics that we couldn't get into the book, because we actually did have a word count limit, and we went right up to that word count limit.
We went a little over.
Yeah, we actually they allowed that.
Yeah, they didn't set it back and say, get rid of 10,000 words. But the problem was we just kept, like, there would be a topic and we go, wow. And then a topic would come up like glass, mystical glass that was made by the Egyptians, and then it was, wait a minute, we've got, that's a whole giant
Oh yeah.
thing in and of itself. And it's like, well, we don't have time to do it, and we don't have space to do it.
So our book does have over 100,000 words. So, and that was like the maximum we could have. So
Wow.
yeah.
And it was like a sports game. It's like we got timed out, the clock went out, and then that was the end of it.
I know. I remember like doing editing one night of like trying to remove words, just to get it down. So when
it's like, we'll get rid of that word, the that's there, the that's there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So.
Oh my goodness. And I can't imagine, you pour your heart and soul on each of the pages, and then you're like, oh, I got to get rid of that. Oh, I got to get rid of that. That would be like breaking my heart.
I know, but it's good editing, because then it makes the language tighter, and more condensed, and that way you're getting more information per page rather than just talking on and on.
Yeah, it made us be more concise, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always hard, when somebody's like sort of criticizing you and say, well, why did you use this, or why didn't you use that? And then, once you engage and say, yeah, well, I guess I could have said that in a better way. Let me see if I can say it in a better way.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely love both y'all's creativity. I mean, you can feel it just in your spoken word tonight on the show. The energy is just pouring out. And I know you're both very creative. How would you tell somebody, how to reach into their own creativeness and do something like this?
Oh, well, I mean, so in our book, there's a lot of information in the first few chapters, but then the last two chapters, like chapter 11 and 12, delve into more, like creative or practices. Okay. So like chapter 11 is all about, creating grids, specific, meditations for how to clear crystals, how to even breathe intention into crystals and embed intention into them, and create grids, to help highlight or to amplify your intention. So I think of those as being very creative. There's one kind of meditation that I do in my crystal energy sessions. I kind of guide people through this, but it's in the book. We describe it in the book too. And that's like, once you have like selected crystals for like, say, the 4 directions in your medicine wheel, then you sit in the middle of the medicine wheel, and then you put one crystal in front of you, one behind you, one to the right, one to the left, and then you're in the middle of this medicine wheel, and you face north. And then you through your own visualization, you call in the energy of the stones one by one into your heart, and then recreate the grid energetically inside your heart. And then once you've done that, then fuse all the crystals together and create a new stone, a new spirit stone that doesn't even exist on Earth. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when I have done that kind of a meditation myself, I mean, it's amazing what I've invented or created with that, like of these amazing mystical stones, which I think are kind of like spirit Chintamani stones. And then that stone is sort of like becomes a guide stone within. But what it does is it really increases the faculties in the mind to really be inventive and creative. And so say if you're working on creativity or you're having creative blocks, I think a meditation like that can be a one that really kind of like opens up the creative channels in the mind and in the imagination too.
Sorry, I have a little 15-year-old Jack Russell terrorist in the room with me.
Well, we have some cats who kind of like hovering. I'm surprised they haven't actually gotten on the laptop yet.
Well, his little toenails click across the floor and it causes interference. This mic picks up everything, and I had to throw myself on mute there for a second.
But there are some other creative practices too in chapter 12. Do you want to talk about those, Johndennis?
Yeah, we have a few different kinds of. You could call them sort of like Chintamani yoga, and there, there's like three different sets of them. But the first set is sort of re-perceiving yourself as more of like a being like a Buddha and a Bodhisattva. So the idea is when we look in the mirror, we see ourselves, but that's just the the karmic version of ourselves, you could say. But what's really closer to the way we actually are is like these deities, in a sense. I mean, we resemble them. We resemble that more. And so what we're trying to do is to like perceive ourselves in that way. And so what you do is this particular mandala with the Kala chakra, there's just a square in the middle, but there's like supposedly a building in the middle, and then there's all of these beings that live inside it, and then there's at the center of it, there's the Kala chakra or the Kala chakri, and it's the male and female deities of the wheel of time, as an example. And so you can start to visualize yourself as one of them, but what we're doing to sort of like, you're supposed to like also experience what that realm is like, what that dimension is like, what you would find there, what the sounds are, what the incenses or the smells that are there, the beauty that's there. So one of the things because it's a book about the Chintamani, is there's a Chintamani in every mandala with every Buddha and Bodhisattva. It's like, so focus on that, and that helps you like find your place in this world. You could focus on the face of the deity. You could focus on a lot of things, but we're also giving some practice where you can just focus on the Chintamani, and then it's like as you're focusing, it's like, oh, I'm here in this realm. So we have a few of those like that. There's another one that we do we independently had this experience when we went connecting to the crystal skulls, and we each had a variety of it. For me, it was like I suddenly sort of perceived my body as like completely that it was a crystal, and then the next second it was like a liquid crystal, but it was completely and utterly clear. So there's a mantra and a way that you can visualize yourself. Of course, another way is like if you find Mitchell Hedges next time it visits, a town near you, or one of the crystal skulls, because there's many of them.
So the crystal skulls, though, those are like they're man-made though, right? Like man carved them out, or did people actually find those out in mining and come across them? Do you guys know the answer to that?
I mean, either humans.
Somebody made them.
Somebody made them, either
Okay.
humans or extraterrestrials, or humans being led by extraterrestrials. Yeah, there's a lot of controversy about who made them.
Yeah, and you see a lot of crude skulls, when you go to the gem shows that people have carved. But like the Mitchell Hedges and a few others, they're anatomically correct, and the Mitchell Hedges, the jawbone actually moves up and down.
Wow.
And the other thing is that for a number of the skulls, they would have to take like triple the volume of what the skull ended up being just to like carve it down. And then whatever kind of skill level they'd have, they would need, because it's like you could burst the skull at any moment with the pressure of the seams of that are within the skull itself. So it's however you look at it, it's a technology that's it's an impressive technology, and you don't know how they got it, because Mitchell Hedges, his daughter Anna, actually is the one that found the skull in a Mayan temple in Lubuntuam. And so that's how that one came. But there's just a number, there's a number of other skulls too.
I remember somebody said if you like, and this could be, again, this could be made up that I've heard, but like if you got these three skulls together, it creates this ultimate power. But I don't know the whole story behind it. I don't remember the gist of it, but have you guys heard anything about that where?
Yeah, there's this legend. If you put, like, there's 12 crystal skulls, and if you put them all together, something magical will happen. I think that was in the Indiana Jones and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull movie too. But the fact of the matter is that there's more than 12 crystal skulls. I mean, there's actually quite a few of them. And so I don't know. I think that might be an urban legend of some kind. If you talk to some of the crystal skull keepers, they actually do sort of say that.
I gotcha. So, I don't. Indiana Jones. I know I was around when those movies were out. I don't recall watching them though.
No, but what's great about Indiana Jones movies is that he's always going after some sacred object. Like the first one was the Lost Ark of the Covenant. The second one, they were actually going after the lingam stones, the sacred Shiva lingam stones, which have like sort of a Chintamani quality to them.
Uh-huh.
And then the next, you can tell I still saw these movies. The next movie was they were going after the Holy Grail, and sometimes
Right.
the Holy Grail is referred to as a stone, like the Philosopher's Stone. And then the next movie was the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So they were doing so in each of the movies, he's going after some sacred object that has like these magical powers, and and like three of them, they were stones. And then,
Wow.
and then even with the Lost Ark of the Covenant, like one of the last scenes in the Indiana Jones movie, they show like one of the archaeologists dressing up as the high priest with the breastplate on, so he could open the ark. So all of them involved Chintamani's in some fashion.
Very, very, very interesting. And I think those took place out like in Egypt and different places like that, right? Those movies.
The movies, yeah, the
Yeah.
movies were located in different, yeah, like Egypt, China, let's see, South America,
India.
yeah.
India.
Europe
Yeah.
was, like
Tibet.
yeah. Now they were in all these places.
Yeah, and I'm just again, I'm so amazed by some of the stones and things that I've witnessed in my lifetime, and the creation of them and how they come about. And you're right, it could have been an extraterrestrial for the skulls, or just like the pyramids. Like, how did they put those things together? Those big, huge stones in that pyramid shape, and it's the energy there is just fabulous. And I hope that on your talk shows that you go in depth, with your radio show that you have coming up on a monthly schedule, that you guys go into depth with all of that, because it's very interesting.
Oh, we intend to. In fact, we're going to have fun with it. We're going to invite people we want to talk to.
I
And then
love it.
we're going to turn it into a learning opportunity. I mean, like do things that you're passionate about. I mean, how creative is that?
Oh, yes, exactly. Always do something that you love to do. Um, we talk about that in the time bank. I don't know if you guys have a time bank out there where you guys are, but it's a group of people in a community that instead of giving of our time, an hour of time, in place of money or something like that to help out our community. And we talk about, don't put a skill on there that you don't enjoy doing. Not your work, but something you enjoy, that you love to do, what you love to talk about, what you enjoy doing with your hands, and help out your community that way. So
Well,
that's the
I think that's a little bit about the wish fulfilling gem. I mean, we talk about that in the book, about like probably even purifying your desires, purifying your heart, purifying your intention, because like the bodhisattvas and even the high priest or anyone who's using these stones in an empowered way, it is for their community, it is for humanity. They're priests, they're praying and doing intentions and asking for blessings from higher source for their communities, and I think that at the core is the wish fulfilling gem, is that it's not about winning the lottery or getting your material needs met. It's a little bit about, the on the spiritual path, you purify what you want in your heart. And then you can use the gemstone in an aligned way with higher source, the stone, and your heart, your purified heart. And in that alignment, you awaken to your true purpose. So, I mean, that's just the other day, so Johndennis and I keep doing like mantras together, and he even came up with a Chintamani mantra, which he sort of you kind of created that yourself years ago. So he and I do work with this with a stone grid. But the other day we were doing this joint practice with this Chintamani mantra, and I went into when we do meditation afterwards, I went to this visionary state where it seemed like, the sacred mountain, Mount Meru, which is the mountain near Shambhala, kind of opened up, and I went into it, and there was this like I don't know, an ascended master or some angel or somebody was there, and it was like all these jewels and crystals, like piles of them. And this is like a pirate booty, okay? Gold, jewels. I mean, and I was standing there and looking at all this, surrounded by this incredible energy, and I didn't want to leave, not because I was being greedy for the crystals, but because of the energy that they were radiating. Okay. And so it's like this ascended being was then asking me, he's like, okay, well, it was sort of like he was saying, it's like, this is going on in my mind. So here's the wish fulfilling jewels. What do you want? Like, it's like, you can ask for anything you want now. Okay. The door's open. Okay. And I went through this process, like I felt like a little overwhelmed, like, what do I even ask for? But he didn't put a limit on it. Like, he didn't say you can have 3 wishes, just said, just start saying them. So it's like, I just started like I almost felt like I was pouring out my heart of everything I needed or wanted, like all the problems in my life, and like I wishing them away, and or like things that would help me to move forward in my life, whatever it was. Until I was just kind of a little bit exhausted by it. It's like, okay, well, there it is. I just did it all, and then all of a sudden it's like my heart was free, and I'd gotten past all of those attachments or desires on, like, say, a lower level. And all of a sudden it's like my heart was pure. And then all of a sudden I was just radiating what I really wanted, which was to be of service to humanity and to others. And I all of a sudden had this experience, and this happened just like a couple of weeks ago. Wow. So I kind of felt like that was, for me, a little bit of a breakthrough moment. You would think I would have had this experience while writing the book, but I really just had this experience the other day. And
no, you were too busy.
I've been too busy to read the book to actually meditate. You're right. But anyway, for me, I was kind of in a little bit of awakening. It was like, oh, and I kind of encourage others to have this too. It's like, it's not wrong to have all those desires, but you also have to move back through them too. Okay. And really get to the core. Once you get through all of the stuff that you think you want, or all your problems, and then really get to the core. Why am I here? What is my true mission? That I think that's a moment of enlightenment.
Yeah. I can see that. I see that. What about you, Johndennis? Have you come to any of, in your meditation, in your practices, something, ascended masters? What do you talk to them about when you're hooking up with them?
I don't know if I get the ascended masters. I'll just get the information in my head. I don't have as many kind of visuals as Hapi has about, like somebody's just entered the room.
But sometimes I think what happens is, like, Johndennis is this very powerful energy that he has been, improving or collecting over a long period of time. And so I almost feel like sometimes he's the engine. He's doing these mantras and bringing these energies in, and I'm there and I can see them. Okay, so it's like I'm almost like the channel. Like I'm telling them, okay, this energy is here. They're saying this, but I think Johndennis's energy and in his spiritual power and connecting these beings is actually bringing that in, and then I'm seeing it.
That's beautiful. What can you share one of your mantras with us?
Certainly. One of the ones that is a big one is the one that's connected with Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of great compassion. And then in India and in Tibet, this Bodhisattva is viewed as a male, but in China and Japan and Vietnam, this is Kuan Yin or Kannon Bodhisattva. So, it's the female Buddha of great compassion. And so there's actually the word Mani, and it's Om Mani Padme Hum. So it's easy because it's 6 syllables. And they don't really have like, meaning in a sense like an affirmation. I mean, you can't translate them. So, I mean, you can't translate Om. It's just, it's the all energy, all sound awakener. It's like open all channels. Om, open all channels. Mani means the gem. Padme means the lotus. And Hum is the sound of the heart energy. So, I mean, there isn't even a verb in there other than, the Hum, which, is, moves energy. So it doesn't have like syntax like you would if you're translating, something from one language to another. But what you get is, so the lotus can be the crown chakra, and the jewel in the lotus is the, your awareness. So it's very simple. And then usually you do Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. And, and you do it for usually, 21 times. It depends on your situation, but usually a full round is considered to be 108 because it's a special number considered that's connected to our own architecture, like our human body architecture. And then you get to the 108th repetition and you use what's known as a bija, which just means a seed syllable, like an essence syllable. And then the syllable is Hri, like HRI, Hri.
Okay.
And then that just sort of like shoots light out, and then you can do another round of it. But the idea of it is, with the mantras, they're sort of like clearing you. They're almost like running a program, a sound vibration program through your body, your energy system, your aura, and it is just it's working the bugs out. And sometimes that's happening because you speed the mantra up, you slow it down, you start to quote unquote mispronounce it, but you're only mispronouncing it for a little while. Or you change the cadence and it sounds like something entirely different, like you're singing a different kind of song, like you're using the same lyrics, but now you have a different tune. But if that happens just spontaneously, which is what you want, then that means that you're allowing the mantra to work through you and to awaken things. But if you're really heavy-handed about it, I must pronounce it the same way all the time. But it'll go back, it'll flip back. So you have to let it, you just have to let it be dynamic and let it move, through your body, through your voice. And then, sometimes you'll get visualizations with it. Sometimes it'll be very quiet. Sometimes you'll just almost stop, and it's like I don't need to meditate. I mean, I don't need to chant anymore. I just need to like meditate. And usually with all the mantras, the one thing that you can do is you try to keep it like a hum in your body so you can feel the vibration in your body. So one of the analogies is it's like a bee. So it's like if you're doing the mantra, maybe the person who's sitting next to you can't exactly hear you, but they might hear you buzzing. But they might, they might not be able to like pick out the words that you're actually saying.
And the other thing too is like to hold like a crystal, especially like a quartz crystal while doing this, because quartz is has an acoustical element to it. That's why they used quartz in radio transmitters, because it can send out harmonic wavelengths. So when you are doing a mantra while holding a crystal, think of the crystals then also helping to send out that harmonic wavelength, almost like a radio signal.
And you said 108 times. So if you're concentrating on saying the 4 words, how are you keeping up with how many times you said it?
There we go.
You have one of these.
Okay.
It's called a mala, or sometimes it's called a Buddhist rosary, and there's 108 of them. So it's like, you don't have to count, because it's like Mani Padme Hum 1, Mani Padme Hum 2. Because that takes you, then you get analytic. So you just do it, and then you know from feel that you've gotten to another beat. That you've got to the big beat at the end.
Well, and then sometimes they make these like out of amethyst or rose quartz or quartz crystal. So as you're rubbing the malas, the beads, then you're activating the crystal too. So
what's interesting is they chose 108, which you're right, that has to do with the body structure. But if you take the 1 and the 8 and add that together, you got 9, which is, humanitarian, spiritualism, all the above. So it's interesting how they came up with that number set.
Yeah, it is. And it's like then they calculated, like from the acupuncture side, that your body is 108, fingers tall. Or it takes you to 96 here, and then to get to the next level up, like above it, it takes you to the 108. So it takes you to the next, octave outside the body.
So do you guys, besides writing books, I know you are a practitioner, Hapi, but Johndennis, are you a practitioner too and meet with individuals?
Yeah, I usually do astrology, as one of the things that a tool I use. And then there's a whole set of energy practices. They're known like as qigongs, which are like, it just means energy accomplishment. But there's a particular one that I learned from my teacher called Spiral Dragon. So it's really an amazing transformational, and it's very gentle, but it sort of moves the energy through you, opens up your channels, opens up your mind, and the more you do it, it just keeps opening things up. And somebody had asked my teacher, Master Chuan, well, it's like, how would I know that I'm making progress in doing Spiral Dragon? And he said, he had this kind of quizzical look that came across his face. He said, well, if you're not getting more intelligent, you're not doing it right.
Oh my gosh, time has flown by. We got about 2 minutes left. Tell us again where your radio program is going to be, because we got some people interested. I got message, so they definitely want to go.
I'll tell you our website name, because we'll definitely have the information on our website. Our website's www.chintamanimatrix.com. So that's spelled CHINTAMANI Matrix, MATRIX.com. And then our radio show, which is going to be premiering May 9th, it's going to be called Crystal Quest, is going to be on Positive Life Radio, or something like that. But anyway, we We haven't been there for very long.
We haven't been there.
Yeah, yeah, and it's healthylife.net. Yeah, that's where you'll find that radio show. And like I said, we're going to be posting that on our website soon too. So.
And then on our website, we do a blog every month on a new moon about the different new moons linked to whatever your intuition is. And there's always a crystal of the new moon. And so there's a discussion of the crystal and how to use it in this particular month.
And in fact, we just posted a new article today because today is a new moon and it's a solar eclipse. So please go visit our article there. It's actually our name of the article is called The Cauldron. So this is we're kind of in an intense eclipse phase right now. And so you can find that article on our website.
Oh goodness! This eclipse that's going on. What's the energy like in it?
Intense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, every eclipse is intense. So it's like usually you consider a new moon to be like 2 to 3 times whatever the normal background noise is in focusing things, and then they talk about eclipses as being to the second or the third power, times. So it makes a big difference. And then the planet Pluto had just gone retrograde yesterday. So whenever you have even a regular new moon and any planet changing, it sort of like makes it larger. So if you have a giant eclipse, an eclipse, which is like more powerful and moving energy, and then you get the slowest planet going, it now just completely, each of them intensifies one another.
Interesting. I love it. Well, I want to thank you both for giving your time to us tonight and sharing some valuable insights and letting us to get to know you and get to watch you and hear you on the radio and really get involved, getting to know you even further in the future. And I hope you guys will come back on this show after you write your second book.
Right.
Yes.
We're going to do it better in less time than 6 years.
I know you will. I know you will. So is there anything else you guys like to say before we sign off this evening?
Yeah, I'm actually very grateful that you reached out to us and asked us to be on your show.
Oh, well, I think you're both amazing, and I'm thankful that I got to connect with you and that we're connected on LinkedIn. So I that's a blessing for me. I'm so thankful for that. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Raising Vibration Radio. I hope you have a fabulous week, everyone, and check us out next weekend. All right. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.